Minecraft has a ton of useful and unique enchantments, but honestly, some definitely fly under our radar compared to others. And today, I'm going over 5 super underrated enchantments that you should be using more in Minecraft. The first enchantment is for the trident and is one of the most useful methods of transportation in the game that almost nobody uses. Riptide replaces your trident's ability to throw with a method to quickly propel yourself forward instead. This does prevent you from throwing the trident ever again, however, and it only works when it's raining or when you're in water. Many players overlook this enchantment because it kind of switches the purpose of the trident. Instead of being an effective weapon now, it sort of just becomes a transportation method. Why would you use this Riptide trident over a boat or an elytra, which work just as well if not better? Well, there's actually multiple reasons why you should have a Riptide trident. First of all, it is actually 3 times faster than a boat when you're underwater, which makes it incredibly useful for underwater travel. You can also pair it with an elytra in rain to travel at 125 blocks per second without the need to craft any fireworks. Or you could even use it without an elytra. It's just super convenient and versatile for transportation in general. And one of my personal favorite uses for the Riptide trident is launching ender pearls. Either hold the ender pearl in your offhand or have it in the slot right next to your trident. Use the Riptide trident when you're in a body of water to propel yourself forward, and as you are propelled, throw the ender pearl. Bam! Now you're covering 200 to 300 block distances in an instant. It's also just super fun. The next enchantment on our list is for the sword and axe, and it's just completely overshadowed, even though it's still super useful. Smite is another enchantment that a lot of players just skip past, and you can't really blame them. Sharpness is the main sword enchantment. It increases your sword's damage to every mob in the game, whereas Smite is just for undead mobs, and because they're incompatible, many players end up choosing Sharpness instead. But here's the thing, a Smite 5 weapon can one-shot any common undead mob you encounter. Even a Sharpness 5 netherite axe crit takes 2 shots to kill an undead mob. Smite 5 is also just lethal against a wither or in a trial chamber when fighting skeletons, so it is practical both in regular situations and in big battles. It is still incompatible with Sharpness though, so how do you get the benefits of both at the same time? Well, it's simple. Have 2 weapons. Could be a sword and axe, whatever. Smite 5 on one sword, Sharpness 5 on the other weapon. Now you got the best of both worlds, one-shotting undead mobs, and a second all-purpose weapon for other mobs. The third enchantment on our list is for the mace, and again, because there's a perceived better option, and because the mace is still a pretty new weapon in general, many players do not end up using this. Breach is an enchantment that increases the mace's effectiveness against armored enemies, which includes mobs and players. Now, from a broader standpoint, this is pretty niche. Unless you're in a multiplayer server, none of the mobs you ever face will have armor. So many players go with the alternative, density. It's sort of a Sharpness Smite situation, since density is an enchantment that generally increases the mace's damage, just like Sharpness does. But here's the thing, Breach is not just some random enchantment that you can use in 2 situations. On armored players, it is crazy effective, and I mean crazy effective. In terms of raw damage, the mace is already probably the biggest threat in the game, but now with a maxed out Breach 4 enchantment on your mace, you will be able to 2-shot a player in full protection for netherite armor as long as you have wind charges. Granted, in an actual PvP situation, they're not going to stand still like this mannequin is doing right here, but still, that is absolutely insane, especially considering some of the strongest weapons in the game couldn't dream of melting a player like that even if they wanted to. And you don't even really lose anything by adding Breach. The mace can already one-shot most common mobs without enchantments anyway, so it's not like you need 2 maces to get the benefit of both. It's perfectly valid to have just 1 mace with Breach and have it be effective against both mobs and players at the same time. For the last enchantment on our list, we got a crossbow enchantment. The crossbow is already a pretty underrated weapon, but even when players do use it, many of them do not add piercing. Piercing makes all arrows fired from your crossbow pierce straight through mobs instead of just disappearing, which doesn't sound that crazy at first, but when you're fighting mobs in a horde who are bunched together, suddenly you can hit almost every mob in the horde all at once with just 1 arrow. Compare that to a power 5 bow, which does way higher damage, but can only hit one mob at a time. This makes the piercing crossbow insanely effective, maybe the most effective ranged weapon for clearing out large groups of mobs. The enchantment a lot of people pick over it, multi-shot, is also actually worse, because although multi-shot makes it so you fire 3 arrows at once, which it does look really good, a lot of the extra arrows you fire will actually bounce off the mobs instead of hitting them, which makes it pretty useless. The only time multi-shot is better than piercing, in my opinion, is when you're using a firework crossbow, where piercing becomes basically useless, but multi-shot allows you to get extra splash damage. But the firework crossbow is pretty much a different weapon altogether, so not really fair to compare them. If you guys did enjoy this video, then please consider dropping a like and a sub, and as always, I will see you in the next one. Goodbye.